So let's imagine for a moment that I've never listened to K-pop in my life. I've been living under a rock and I've never even heard of the names Psy or BTS. Who are some of the artists you might recommend that I check out?
I would actually approach this in a very specific way, actually. First, I would find out what kind of music you're listening to now, and then I would match up a K-pop or Korean artist that kind of fits your taste more. Because that way you don't just see K-pop is just this one thing, or you have whatever preconceived notion of it in your head. I think K-pop is many genres within itself. So, but I think if your question is just blindly going in, what artists I would recommend, I would do the typical thing and show you the more mainstream artists, especially ones that are closer to what you're used to in Western music. Assuming you're from the West, Big Bang is one I would show you first. They have familiar Western influences, but at the same time, they will be like nothing you've ever seen before, right? So that's exactly how I got into K-pop, through Big Bang. And Blackpink is another easy gateway drug, I feel. Just enough familiarity, but very, very unique from what you're probably used to, and still showing how distinct and unique K-pop can be. BTS, I think, has some very digestible music in their repertoire. So another reason I would do these bigger, more mainstream artists is they kind of transcend the K-pop realm a bit. So at the same time, I can also say, hey, look, Ellis, your favorite artists are fans of these groups as well, so you should also get to know them. And then after I show you the more mainstream songs from those artists, I'll show you their more deep cut songs that they have in their discography. And then based on what you like, then I'll transition you to whatever group I think you might like from that. So I would go at this in a very methodical way. I don't know. Do you have specific songs and artists that you always go to, no matter what?
Wow, you're kind of like the personal shopper of K-pop. You know, like those personal shoppers these days?
Yeah, I gotta get to know you first.
Hypothetically speaking, I would probably recommend bigger names, something that is more popular for the general public, very poppy and maybe more accessible type of sound. But going back to kind of more popular artists, just someone that is more known and generally listened to or generally accepted, you can't go wrong with the big names like BTS, Blackpink, Twice.
Yeah.
And if you want to go back a few generations, we can talk about, like you said, Big Bang or 21.
Mm-hmm.
But one artist that I think should be recommended is IU, because she just produces such well-received music. She's one of the most popular artists in Korea, and she's kind of an iconic figure in the entertainment industry. So on today's episode, following the release of IU's latest movie, IU Concert, The Winning, in cinemas, we briefly discuss the IU concert experience, as well as analyze and review the cinematic cut created out of her most recent show. Welcome to Diaries of an MZ Generation, where we discuss Korean culture, music, and entertainment. This is episode 6. I'm Ellis Tan, and today is Friday, February 14th, 2025. Joining me as always is my co-host, Justin Lee. How are you doing today?
First of all, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Last week you said you were anxious about our Korea trip coming up, which I thought, why would he be anxious? You know, I'm so excited over here. Well, this week I would like to report that I am now also anxious. I am overwhelmed thinking about everything that needs to be taken care of before then, but I'm still excited. And after we record this podcast, these following days are going to be heavy Korea prep. So yeah, I can't believe how close we are. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big trip. It's, was it 5 weeks almost?
Oh man, yeah, you're right.
So just having a trip that long, being away from home that long, causes me, personally, a lot of anxieties. But otherwise, I'm doing great. But yeah, we're leaving in a few days, so...
Can't wait.
Excited, worried, nervous.
Yeah.
Trying to pack everything.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, we talked about K-pop concert movies, and my co-host Justin here told me that he had never seen one in the theaters. Well, Justin said that he would get out there and see one, and he is a man of his word. Last week, Justin and I both went to go see IU's latest concert movie at the movie theater. But before we dive in, who is IU? There may be some that know Lee Ji-eun, more commonly known as IU, primarily as a top-tier actress with plenty of movie and drama credits to her name. But before her acting debut on the show Dream High in 2011, she was first and foremost a singer. IU made her debut on September 23rd of 2008 as a soloist at the age of 15 with her first EP, Lost and Found, and the lead single, Lost Child, or Mia. A few years later, in June of 2010, IU soared in popularity with the release of her song, Nagging, or Chansori in Korean. And that song featured Im Sulong of 2AM. Did you listen to this song when it was released?
I did. I was a big 2AM fan at the time. IU's name was starting to grow, and I didn't think at the time this would become such a classic that it is now. A lot of artists covered it, or at least tried. I think it was known to be a very difficult song to sing, which just adds to its legendary status and then launched IU even higher. Do you remember when this came out?
Yeah, of course, because at the time, I was already a big IU fan.
Yeah.
And an even bigger 2AM fan.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because at the time, 2AM was massive. They were this big group,
Yeah.
them along with 2PM under JYP Entertainment. And they were known as balladeers, but they were relatively popular because I guess with the agency backing. And at the time, I would say Sulong was actually more popular than IU.
I think that's safe to say, yeah.
Yeah, so when this song came out, I would say that Sulong was kind of carrying a little bit as far as popularity goes. But after the song came out, people started to recognize IU. She started to grow in popularity.
Mhm.
And if you look back at this song that came out in 2010, today in 2025, it's funny because IU's popularity has eclipsed Sulong's popularity so much since then. And now really IU is the one that's carrying the popularity there.
Yeah.
But shortly after, IU released her third EP, Real, in December of the same year, with the lead single Good Day, or 좋은 날 in Korean. And the rest is history. IU became a top artist in the Korean music industry and received the nickname of the nation's little sister. Since then, she's skyrocketed in popularity with each subsequent release, and most recently, in 2024, IU dropped the EP titled The Winning. What does it mean to be the nation's ...
To me, it means someone who is almost undoubtedly, almost unanimously considered, the epitome of whatever the term is following the nation's blank, right? So one example in my mind is Yoo Jae-suk, right? Yoo Jae-suk is considered the nation's MC. He is the embodiment of what Korea sees as the perfect MC. He has the charm, he has the wit, the comedic awareness, the ability to control any entertainment environment he's in. Yoo Jae-suk, as the nation's MC, is who Korea wants the rest of the world to see as kind of the representative of the best the country has to offer when it comes to hosting. So to me, IU embodied that spirit of the nation's little sister. What did that mean to you?
I'm glad that you bring up Yoo Jae-suk as your example. I was kind of thinking that you might recommend Suji.
I was about to.
She is known as the nation's first love.
Yes.
And I think you described it absolutely perfectly. The representative of what the nation wants and sees. So when did you become a fan of the nation's little sister? Would you say that you are a Yuena?
Oh, I mean, are you kidding? I feel like it seems a little weird. It's such a foreign idea to me for someone not to be a fan of IU. At least, I guess, I have respect for her. I mean, for me, I've been following IU's career for so long. I remember when she was considered like the baby of the industry. She was the rookie and the youngest anywhere she appeared. I still remember those days, when she was emceeing shows with veteran idols. My love blossomed for her when she starred in the drama Dream High, of course. She was the one that was fangirling. Her crush or admiration, whatever you want to call it, for Big Bang's Taeyong was very well known. And you fast forward to now, where she is known as the idol's idol. She went from fangirling over Big Bang's Taeyong to having current idols like Stacey Sheehan bursting into tears, just being in the same room with her. But yeah, you can't help but love IU. If you know her background, she had it quite rough, just trying to get her foot in the industry. She's not just a performer either. I would consider her very much an artist. I can't help but feel proud when I see her because, like we both talked about, we've seen what it was like for her in the beginning. And, at the same time, she's also someone you look up to, that I look up to when it comes to work ethic, when it comes to how I want to carry myself, how I want to inspire people. She's truly the idol's idol, once in a blue moon artist, I think. And I'm lucky that I've been here for so much of it.
Yeah, you mentioned like, how can you not be a fan of IU? How can you not love IU? And I think that's the big reason why she's one of the artists that I would recommend to somebody who's maybe interested in getting into K-pop.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know why, but I remember it so clearly. Maybe it's just because she's had such an impact on my life. But the reason I was introduced to IU is during the time I was a frequent visitor of the Melon website, which is the Melon Music Charts.
Yeah.
And the Melon website will showcase new releases. And one of the new releases that caught my eye was IU's first EP, Lost and Found. And I don't know why in particular it caught my eye. It was the cover art is just like a tree. But I clicked on it and I saw it and I was like, maybe I should check this song out. And I checked out the song and fell in love immediately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's so interesting because that song is actually really different from the music that grew her popularity. After Mia or Lost Child, she didn't do that well with that song. And I believe her company kind of pushed her to a more cute concept.
Yeah.
So she came out with Boo as her second single. And I believe following that, she came out with Marshmallow, which I still love to this day. Marshmallow, Marshmallow. Yeah, so at that time, I was such a big fan of IU that I took a screenshot from that music video of her kissing the marshmallow.
Okay.
And that was my profile picture on social media for a while.
Was there a particular reason that frame caught your eye?
I just really liked the marshmallow costume from that music video. And it even came on stage with her when she was doing the music show performances. But I liked IU too, so I wanted to include a shot with her and the marshmallow character.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's why I chose that frame. I don't know if it was in particular because she was kissing the marshmallow at the time.
Yeah.
It could have been, but I don't remember the exact reason why I chose that frame, but it was probably something along those lines. So I just gave a few songs from her early days. But do you have some favorites in IU's discography or even filmography that you might recommend to our listeners?
I might be suffering a little bit from recency bias, but man, I'll probably swing the pendulum the other way from some of the songs you just said. BB is a song I love. I love her music video for it. She always has an artistic way of telling a story. 8 featuring BTS's Sugar, that's a great emotional song, especially when you dive into that music video. Palette featuring Big Bang's G-Dragon, that is just a song I can't believe exists. To have those two artists on one track, that's a blessing. Strawberry Moon, Blooming, 23, Coin. How can I not say Good Day? Good Day is truly an iconic song. It's amazing and it showcased what she could really do. Just going old school, I would recommend her Dream High OST, and I would also recommend watching Dream High. Not necessarily for her acting chops, because that was probably her first one, but I just have fond memories of that drama. And speaking of OSTs, Hold My Hand. So there's a lot I want to list out. That's how good she is. And so you're probably right. She's probably a good artist to recommend to people just because she has so many songs and so many different songs. But if you were to ask me one of my favorite songs within the last decade, not just IU song, what my favorite songs overall of the last decade, I would seriously consider Celebrity to be in that conversation. I can't express how much I love that song. The music video is brilliant, obviously, and with any stroke of luck, I hope I can see it live one day so I can cry my eyes out.
You stole one of mine. I was going to say Blooming too.
I'm surprised one.
Well, I mean, you stole multiple, but I was going to try to limit how many I was going to recommend. You just pretty much recommended her entire discography.
Sorry. Just put her thing on shuffle and go.
Exactly. But I do want to add a few more.
Please.
So, You and I feel, is one of her most iconic songs. You listed so many iconic songs already, but You and I is one that you didn't mention.
Absolutely.
So I want to mention that. You mentioned Palette earlier. And yeah, that song is absolutely amazing because of the GD collab. It's always so cool to see her doing the rap
Yeah.
from that song. And it was cool also when GD was a guest at her show.
Oh my God.
And performing that song with her. A few other songs that I would recommend are Lilac, and one of my favorite songs of the 2020s from IU is Strawberry Moon.
Strawberry Moon.
And I absolutely love that song. Check out the Melon Music Awards performance of that one.
Oh.
And if you like something a little bit more ballady, something that showcases her vocals, I would probably recommend Through the Night or Bampyeonji. So that is our recommendations for music. I mean, what is that, like 20, 25 songs?
Just put it on shuffle and go.
You'll be spending like 3 hours listening to IU.
Yeah.
As far as acting goes, you recommended Dream High. I'm not sure how much I would recommend it, but it is iconic for its time. And there's a lot of big second-gen idols. And also Kim Soo-hyun.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorite actors was in Dream High. So that's a fun little drama to recommend. Another fun drama that I would recommend that also had Kim Soo-hyun is The Producers.
The Producer. Watch that one first.
That one's kind of a better drama. It's probably a lot better. But I think I would recommend My Mister and Hotel Del Luna as far as something that showcases her acting chops. And another thing that I would recommend is maybe the movie Broker.
Okay.
Which wasn't necessarily the greatest movie, but it was a good movie showcasing her acting skills.
Yeah.
So I do want to get moving along because this episode is supposed to be about IU's concert movie, The Winning. But before we get started, I do want to talk about some of the defining characteristics of attending an IU concert. Have you ever seen IU in person?
No.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. And I was reminded this past week of what I am missing, unfortunately. But I know you have, right?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend her concert tour last year. She finally came over to the States. But before she actually toured the States, for the first time, I might add, she actually came to the US once before at the 2014 KCON LA. I have never regretted not attending a KCON as much as attending KCON LA 2014 because that would end up being the only time that IU would visit the United States since her debut all the way up to her concert tour last year.
Oh, but at least you got to go to that, you know? I remember the tour last year and she announced it and it was right up against KCON LA, which we both attended together.
But we were trying to go together after. It's just the tickets were so hard to get.
Tickets are hard to get, and I also had AT, so I had to fly somewhere different. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the tickets were so hard to get. You and I tried to get tickets for LA to go after KCON, but it couldn't happen. And yeah, those tickets were just sold out almost instantly. And it's funny because when she first debuted, her fan meetings couldn't even fill movie theaters.
Yeah.
And now she's selling out stadiums for multiple night shows. IU's concerts are now something of a national event in Korea. What have you heard about IU's concerts?
Like you said, these are now events. It's a show. Every little detail is thought out. It's something to behold. We talked about how it's hard to get tickets even for a stadium show. Her concerts are the ones that all the celebrities want to go to. And just to give you an idea of how big her concerts are, she took it upon herself to prepare gifts for the residents of the surrounding area because she knows how much of a disruption that day and night of her concert will be to the city. So that just kind of speaks to the kind of person she is, which is a huge part of why she has the title of Nation's Little Sister. So yeah, I've heard these legends of these events.
Yeah, there's essentially two things you know you're going to get when you go to an IU concert. One, you're going to get gifts from her mom because
Yes.
her mom's so sweet.
Yes.
She spends so much time or money to provide gifts for every single attendee. And the length of the concert, she's been known to perform for up to 5 hours because of her, what they call encore or her second encore. And she essentially just comes out in street clothes and performs songs that aren't on the set list. And it kind of just comes down to how long she has the venue booked for. So she could end up singing all night.
I would not mind that one bit.
Yeah, so when you go to an IU show, you're definitely getting your money's worth. So after the pandemic in 2022, IU held her award-winning concert, The Golden Hour, under the orange sun, which was her first in 3 years. The venue was the Seoul Olympic Stadium, located in the neighborhood of Jamsil, and she became the first Korean female artist to headline a concert at the largest stadium in South Korea. Do you remember seeing any clips from this show?
Oh, absolutely. Kind of like we said, how can you be a fan of K-pop and not be an IU fan? Anytime IU has a concert, we talked about this being an event, you know, because I think it was hard to miss clips from this concert, whether you were looking for them or not. One of the most memorable images in my head is that hot air balloon going around the entire stadium as she was singing Strawberry Moon. I think that was an iconic clip that was going around. I watched the other performances that she uploaded to YouTube. It looked incredible.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing that hot air balloon and just floored by the production level that she was putting into these concerts.
So good. It also shows like she makes sure no matter where you are in that stadium, you're going to get a good show. It doesn't matter if you're on the floor. It doesn't matter if you're up top. You're going to come away with something special.
She would go on to release the cinematic cut of this concert in a movie that was screened across the world. And personally, it's my favorite concert movie that I've watched to this day.
I'm not surprised.
I remember after getting out of that theater, just super emotional because I could remember that she couldn't even fill a similar size theater with a fan meeting.
Yeah.
And here she was selling out stadiums, releasing a movie of it, and is being played in theaters across the United States. That was a huge moment as a fan of IU to kind of have that interesting circle back.
Yeah. And man, like if anyone deserves that kind of success, it's IU, right?
Yeah, so pretty much as an overseas or international IU fan, we could only dream of seeing IU in concert because if you didn't live in Korea, she didn't really go outside of Korea that much. If she did, it was just in the Asias.
Yeah.
But in 2024, IU would have her first world tour that included countries outside of Asia. And the concert tour, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this. It's like Hera, but it started out as her, but then it became HEREH, which is her backwards as well, which is actually how she separated her set list into different themes, starting with hypnotic, energetic, romantic, ecstatic, and heroic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how hard it was to try to get tickets to this tour?
I do. It was so hard that I don't really remember the initial process. I just remember the trying to get resale tickets, to be honest with you.
I remember that day because I was trying to get tickets, not just for me, but for friends and for multiple stops. I had never seen a larger queue number in my life.
That's right. Now I remember.
Yeah, I think I was number 60,000 or something like that.
At that point, you're like, hold on. How many does this venue hold? And you're like, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, this was an arena tour.
Yeah.
So these arenas will hold maybe 10 to 15,000 people.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that 60,000 number, I'm like, I'm out of here. And that would continue for every stop.
Yeah.
But I also actually tried to get tickets for the Korea concert because I was in Korea at the time when she started the tour at the KESPO Dome in March.
Oh my gosh.
That was also impossible. Yeah, I don't know how anybody gets tickets to an IU show, even with all the effort that she does to reduce the resale, at least in Korea.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Would you say it was worse, like harder?
It was much harder. If you're not in the fan club, it's impossible to get a ticket.
Okay, wow.
But after the US tour, she would announce that she would hold her encore concert for 2 nights on September 21st and September 22nd at the Seoul World Cup Stadium in the Sangam neighborhood of Seoul. And that is the second largest stadium in South Korea. She had once again made history, being the first female artist to headline a show at this stadium. So these two stadiums are the two largest in Korea. The stadium that she performed at in 2022 and the stadium that she performed at last year in 2024. The capacity of these stadiums is close to 70,000. For concerts, it's probably around 50,000. So for these two nights, she had about 100,000 fans attending to see her. But amidst the excitement with the announcement of this two-day encore concert in Seoul, she was met with some controversy regarding the stadium grass. Do you remember hearing about this?
Yeah, so IU's concert, which sold out 100,000 tickets within minutes, was, of course, like you said, being held at the Seoul World Cup Stadium, primarily designed for soccer or football if you're from outside the States. Now, previously, Sung Hyun-min, one of the best and probably the most well-known soccer player in Korea, he's almost to the Korean soccer world what IU is to the Korean music industry, right? So prior to her concert, he had already made a comment about the condition of the field at that stadium, how it was frustrating to control the ball during games and that would slow things down for them. And he hoped that the field would be improved and maintained better for future games. A fan of Sung Hyun-min apparently filed a petition to cancel IU's concert, claiming that her show would worsen the grass's condition. For some context, South Korea was scheduled to host some 2026 World Cup qualifying matches the month after IU's concert in October, and the petition argued that efforts should be focused on maintaining the stadium's grass until then. Actually, the stadium even has its own rules to minimize the turf damage, and if those rules aren't followed, the artist, in this case IU, would be held responsible for the charges of repairing it. So I do believe before IU's concert, a message was sent out to fans who were seated on the ground to refrain from wearing shoes that could damage the grass, like heels and stuff. So ultimately, her concert wasn't canceled or affected by this, but it does look like the city of Seoul might start prohibiting floor seats from being sold at future events taking place at the stadium. I know that singer Im Young-woon, who also has huge concerts, he didn't have floor seating when his show was going on there. So yeah, that's basically the IU grass controversy.
Yeah, I don't think there's actually been a concert scheduled at that stadium since the IU concert.
I mean, yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
To put this into perspective a little bit, Sunny, which is Sun Heung-min's nickname, Sunny is kind of like the Lionel Messi of Korea. He's the best Korean soccer player.
Yeah.
And this is about a national event. This is for the national team. It's for the World Cup. And if you're a listener of this podcast, you are probably a K-pop fan. You might not necessarily be a soccer or football fan, but soccer or football is the largest sport in the world. And it is the most popular sport in the world. And it has a huge fandom. So if you are just a K-pop fan and you're not a soccer fan, you might not understand this complaint. But this had huge implications on Korea's national football team or soccer team. And Korea is really big on soccer. So these type of complaints definitely were taken into heavy consideration.
The concern was definitely understandable when you know how seriously people take it.
Exactly. K-pop fans versus soccer fans. Soccer fans are going to win.
I mean, they have like national pride attached to this, so the city would probably be on their side as well.
Sure. Regardless of the complaints, however, it did appear that EDAM Entertainment, which is IU's agency, they did do their best to preserve the grass. So without further ado, let's get into the movie. The filming of IU's concert movie, The Winning, took place at the previously mentioned final stop of her tour at the Seoul World Cup Stadium. There are a few different screening types, including the standard projection, they had Screen X, they had the 4DX, and they had IMAX. Which screening did you end up seeing?
I believe it was just the standard screening. Which one did you end up seeing?
I went to go see the IMAX version because
Beautiful.
if it was available in IMAX, I would go see it in IMAX. It's just the larger screen,
Yeah.
the better audio, but it's mainly the screen size. Honestly, if they had it in Dolby, which is, I don't know if this is like a US thing or what, but the Dolby cinemas have the best screen and the best audio.
Yeah, for sure.
I would definitely go for that.
Same.
But what were your expectations going into the movie? How were you feeling? Were you excited?
I was just very curious. Going into it, I felt like I knew what I was in for. Again, I've watched some second gen concert DVDs that were uploaded online, which were also very grand scale concerts with moving stages and everything. Like we talked about, I've seen clips of IU's previous stadium show, so I was excited to see what this felt like in a theater. At the same time, I was like, I know what I'm going to see though.
How many people were at your auditorium?
So mine was a weird 3 p.m. screening. It was the only 3 p.m. screening out of a bunch of 1 p.m.s. So I feel like those were probably more filled up. Mine was a smaller theater. And I would say it's hard to tell with everyone just spread out, but maybe a fourth of the theater was filled up, which...
A quarter?
Okay, maybe less than a quarter. Less than a quarter of the theater was filled up. But I felt like more than I thought at this time of the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much did you expect?
I thought not many. Just because there were already other showings like earlier in the day. So I just thought more people would go to those.
Were there a lot of theaters showing this movie?
I would say there were a few. Where I am, if you wanted to see it near you, you probably could. But you being from New York, I'm sure screenings were aplenty, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of screenings, and I think that may have contributed to the low attendance.
How many were in your theater?
There was only 8 people in this huge IMAX theater. Yeah, I'm not sure that's good. I don't think it's good, but
yeah.
As far as the people with you, your fellow moviegoers, did they have any reactions during the movie? Did anyone bring a light stick?
I feel like the people who went to my screening probably picked the screening because they were thinking the same thing I was thinking, like, oh, not many people are coming. But then we all kind of just gathered there. So they were not the type to react, or they didn't talk. They didn't do anything. No light sticks, no clapping, nothing. Was it different in yours?
Wow, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because even though we only had like 8 people in the auditorium, I could hear people like, woo, and clapping and stuff like that.
Oh, man. See, that's what I want.
No one brought a light stick, though.
Okay.
I was thinking about bringing my light stick, but I was kind of just in a rush to get out of the house.
So we discussed that in a previous episode. I was like, am I just going crazy? I asked my sister who went to one of the BTS screenings when they had it. She told me there were people dressed up, people brought light sticks. And I was like, oh, man, okay. So I guess it just kind of depends.
Yeah, but BTS is a different beast, a different fandom.
Yeah.
IU's fans, I guess, are more chill.
Just chill.
More chill guy. So
I will say, like, when you say IU's fans, the demographic was pretty diverse. There's a couple who walked in, older couple that if I just saw them on the streets, I would never think, oh, they're IU fans. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, you bring up demographic. For me, there was a bunch of Korean people. I would say the majority of the 8 attendees were Korean people. And there was a family that, it didn't look like they may have been IU fans. So IU's fans encompass all stages of life.
Yeah, that's the power she has.
So based on my previously discussed categorization of concert movies, this one falls pretty much under the performance-only version. The set list was pretty much the exact same set list as the actual concert if you had attended it live, but it did cut out the encore. How did you feel about the concert set list?
Oh, I loved it. I wasn't there for the in-person concert, so I didn't have expectations of what would be playing or what should be playing or anything like that. I just remember every song she performed, I ate it up. It was awesome.
Yeah, the set list for this encore concert is actually different from the set list that she had from the beginning of the tour. She condensed the set list for the actual concert, and I kind of wonder if it's because the company knew that they would be filming and producing this cinematic cut of it. She did include a new song called By Summer, but she cut out a lot of the songs that I really like Coin. Like the Coin performance from the tour was such a great part of the show.
Oh, man.
She cut out a bunch of different songs, but she did put back in Lilac, which I thought was great because Lilac is one of my favorite IU songs. I think I recommended that one earlier, right? So as far as the production level goes, so this is a little bit outside of the purview of the concert movie itself. It's more about the concert that we saw in the movie. But once again, we see the incredible production value that IU puts into her concerts and like the amount of logistics that have to go into preparing something like this, from the suspended platforms, the huge orchestra, the amount of dancers that she had. There's a lot of pyro. There was a huge drone show. They even had the Tweety Bird balloon flying outside of the stadium.
Yes. Yes.
How did you feel about seeing all this production that IU was putting into her concert?
It was magical. I remember just the overhead drone shots to start the show, and she was already like in the air to start. So like, okay, we're in for a special one here. And just all the little touches, when she performed Appa, they brought out into the crowd these like light up giant fishes and jellyfish, and those would grow into the crowd. And she was on a surfboard, that apparatus, which looked awesome. And just speaking about the way the concert was produced and kind of how the movie was produced, I liked that when we were watching a VCR, they didn't just play the video and then cut back to the concert. You know what I mean? The stadium noise was still in there. We would cut to the crowd. The atmosphere of the crowd was still there. So that added a level of immersion when watching those video clips, which I liked. For songs like I Stan You, when the crowd is singing, that added so much emotion to the performance. I feel like it's not something you would get live because you would be so focused on IU or, maybe your friends. You'd be focused on yourself. So seeing all these different kinds of reactions during that performance specifically added a lot of emotion to it. Some of my favorite shots included the conductor. The conductor was on a very high platform and he was conducting the orchestra, but there were some amazing shots from his, not point of view, but from his height out to the crowd. And I don't know, I just love when he was in the forefront. I am a huge, I don't want to say pyromaniac because that means something completely different, but I love pyro.
You love fire? What? You love lighting things on fire?
I see, exactly. I was like, what is this word? Like, I love pyro, especially being a wrestling fan, right? The theatrics of it is a big part of that. And I feel like a lot of shows don't really take advantage of pyro, and maybe it's because it's expensive.
It's very expensive. I was surprised with the amount of pyro and streamers that they had going off at the same time, because not just one pyro and it's not just two streamers, but they were doing them at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there has to be some type of logistics that you need to consider to not light the streamers on fire.
That's true. And a lot of shows that do use pyro, it's just kind of like one boom, just to punctuate the song or punctuate the moment, punctuate the last chorus. The way they used it during her concert was amazing because it would, build up from the far end of the stadium and it would go toward the stage as like her notes are building up, as you're getting to a certain moment. And then another pyro would go off above the stage. That would punctuate the moments. I love the way they intentionally designed the pyro around her performance, around her singing.
There was so much pyro that I started wondering, it's not just the pyro, but all the other production effects and the balloon I mentioned earlier, the drone show. I started wondering, was she losing money on this show? But how much would it cost to produce something like this with the huge stadium, the amount of production effects, the amount of staff? I don't know.
And on top of that, I gotta mention the drones. The use of drones were very apparent and very prevalent in this concert. First of all, there are some drones that are holding lights and they want you to focus on it. So I'm guessing there's another drone behind it following that drone. And that kind of told the story of whatever next song she was performing. And
yeah, so there was the concert drone, which would have production effects.
Yeah.
But then they also had the movie drone following the concert drone.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wonder what what the logistics of that looks like.
And then on top of that, there are what's the plural form of a team of drones? Like there was a drone show going on over the stadium during some of the songs, which the crowd was in awe, and I was in awe. And then at a certain point, a Tweety balloon just went by the screen. I was like, "What? What is that?" Like, what is? There's no way they added that.
I remember seeing the Tweety balloon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they added that.
I know.
Like, that's not even something that you would see when you're inside the stadium.
Dude, that was added. Like, how much did that cost? Like, dude,
And it's a custom Tweety balloon.
they went all out.
It's not just like a standard Tweety balloon. It was wearing the outfit.
Yeah, they went all out. The light sticks were a huge part, but they're a huge part in a lot of concerts these days. It's the way they did it in this one was really good.
It's amazing. But yeah, one of the parts of being a K-pop fan is the light sticks. And Western concerts have started implementing this as well, where they give you these light up wristbands or bracelets. But K-pop is just on another level because, especially in Korea, where they have the central control and you can choreograph essentially the way that the light sticks will light up. And I was looking at the credits while they were rolling at the end of this movie, and I saw the light stick. I can't remember the exact term that they used, but there was a segment where they listed the people that handled the light stick choreography, and there were 14 people credited for the light stick central control. It's like, how many people, how many man hours, how long does it take to prepare something like this? But the way that the light sticks lit up was fascinating. It was such a spectacle to behold, honestly, watching the movie. And I'm sure being there in person.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, you don't think about it at the moment, but when you think back, just if you and I were to sit down and say, okay, let's create this effect where it looks like the stadium is kind of sparkling. Like, where do we even start? What colors do we use? What colors do we not use? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of thinking behind a lot of little things. And I feel like the little things in this concert, everything was pondered on and thought out very well, which added to the whole experience of why this concert just felt so magical. I don't know another word that would be appropriate for it.
And it adds so much to the experience, not just as a fan or as a viewer or as a attendee, but also as the cinematographer.
Yes.
In photography and in videography, light is the most important thing. So whoever thought of creating the light stick, I believe it was from the Big Bang days, genius, absolute genius, because the light sticks just on film look so amazing.
Yeah.
One other thing that I noticed during the movie, in 2022, IU had the hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2024, this past concert tour, IU had the surfboard.
Yep.
She had these multiple suspended platforms going around the stadium.
Yeah.
She also had a stage on the opposite end of the stadium where she went to go perform. One thing that I've noticed, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but IU's production, and I'm sure that she has a large hand in this, she will always try to find a way to get as close to everybody as possible.
Yeah.
Right? With the hot air balloon, she was going around the stadium. So even if you were in the second level, the third level, and really far away from the main stage, you still had your chance to see her pretty close.
Yep.
Same situation here with the surfboard and the suspended platforms and the second stage at the opposite end of the stadium. And it was really cool to see her performing there and the fans that were there. Imagine you're sitting there and the stage is on the opposite ends of this football stadium. You're pretty much just watching the screen, right?
Yeah.
But then for a whole set, she comes out and performs directly in front of you. That was cool.
I love that so much. And it's not like she didn't do it to where if you got a floor ticket or something, you felt gypped because you spent so much money. The show was focused on like that main stage, but she also spent, I felt like just the right amount of time around the stadium on that opposite stage, going back to the main stage, doing all that. I thought it was perfect.
And I want to highlight for a second how incredible her live band and orchestra was and how many dancers she had.
Yes.
It was so fun. I remember one moment during the movie where the dancers were so hyped, and while IU was finishing up the concert, they were like following her around. Yeah. I just totally love that.
I love that you bring them up because I distinctly remember at one point I was looking at some of the dancers like, man, they They just look like they're having so much fun. And the three backup vocalists that they focused on a lot, they seemed like they were having fun.
Yeah, I forgot about the chorus too. There was the huge chorus behind her that was singing along too. They were great. Yeah, just absolutely incredible production.
It felt like a team effort. They were all there to make the show better. I felt like they loved IU, and you can tell IU, reciprocates that respect and appreciation to the point where everyone is on board to accomplish this show, this one goal. And it's not just outsourced teams just kind of combining together.
Were there any performances during the movie in particular that you resonated with?
I felt like the beginning performance was such a perfect way to open the show. Again, she was already flying in the air. Her dress was just sparkling. She had these headphones or earmuffs as part of her outfit, which I thought was so cool for some reason. I just loved it. I got chills just right from the opening. The kids came out to dance, which is such an IU thing, I feel like. Another one is when she performed BB. At a certain point, I realized I was smiling. I felt that was the first time during this concert that the crowd sang along very loud. And, it's the part where she like scanner, and like jealous. And I thought that was so cool. Like I got chills again there.
It's always fun watching her dance too.
Exactly. Like her facial expressions and her runs, it just all felt very effortless. It feels like it's in the moment. If it's something she rehearsed, then I would have never known. It just felt very effortless, very in the moment.
Yeah, it might just also be her experience. I mean, she's been a singer for 16 years, so...
Like, I know she has, bumps in the roads and problems she has to overcome, but when she was on that stage, I can't picture her having a bad vocal day or, I don't know, a bad hair day or anything. Everything just seemed to fall in place so perfectly. One of my favorite performances, it started with this star that we were following on a drone. So the star was on a drone, we're following it on a drone, and it's going through this path.
Some drone on drone action.
Droneception. When we get a closer look at the star, the drone is also following this, and then it starts following this girl, right? And then the girl is following the star. Okay, so bear with me here, okay? And when we get a closer look at that star, I realize it looks like it's not like a perfect star. It's like someone drew it. And like I told you, Celebrity is one of my favorite songs of the past decade. So I knew from that choreography, I knew what that star was about to lead up to. And I didn't know if it was a song that she still performed or not. And it was such a pleasant surprise. I was over the moon when she did that.
Yeah, during Celebrity, I was getting goosebumps watching that performance in the theater.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe my ears, my eyes. All these things are coming out. It's been amazing so far. And then she pulls out a guitar for By Summer. I was like, oh my God, what else is she going to do?
Oh, for that part also, in particular, it started raining. It was like magical because
Yes.
obviously rain is not really great during a performance or during a show. But for filming, rain is incredible. It looks amazing on camera. That really stood out to me.
Yeah, and like it didn't affect anything negatively. You wouldn't even know. It's like she knew it was going to rain. And like her hair, nothing happened to her hair. Like, it was just so good. It made it even better. The song is called By Summer and it starts raining. I like, she planned that. Meaning of You is another performance that I think that was the most emotional I got. It's not even a song of hers that I listen to a lot compared to her other songs, but for some reason, the shots of the crowd singing, her flowery dress, it was flowing in the wind. Like the wind was on her side as well. The wind and the rain just really coordinated with her before that concert. And there were so many moments, so many performances that stood out to me. What were some of yours?
So you already mentioned Celebrity. So we talked about that a little bit. You talked about the By Summer.
Mm-hmm.
The one that got me though was Blooming. I don't know what happened. It's probably partly the lyrics, but also because of how much I love that song. I started crying. I was literally crying in the movie theater.
I don't blame you.
It was such an amazing performance, and the visual, the sound, everything just culminating into that moment of emotion bursting out of me, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing that did stand out to me though on some of these shots is that they took the time to blur out the lyrics on the monitors. What's up with that?
I don't know. Do you think it's like a distraction or what do you think?
I felt like it was even more distracting having it blurred.
That is true.
If you were going to do something, just mask it out with a color, like a flat black or gray.
We maxed out our budget with that Tweety bird balloon, so just blur it out. Just blur it out.
Exactly. I guess I just noticed that it was a little bit distracting to me because even when they were showing the crowd shot from behind IU and they had the lyrics on the main board, they blurred it out for some reason. And it was a little bit distracting.
I can't think of a reason that jumps to the top of my head, like why they would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. But as far as the rest of the shot selection goes, were you satisfied with the shots? Like the crowd shots, the amount of crowd shots, the close-ups, the establishing shots, the drone shots?
Yeah, I think so. None of it stood out to me as, oh man, I think we're getting too many drone shots, or I wish it wasn't on the crowd right now. I think it was the right balance, at least for me. You know, you're at a concert movie, so I kind of want to see the crowd sometimes. When it's showing, you know, someone crying and singing the lyrics, that made me emotional. It cut it back to IU at the perfect times where she was about to belt out a note or something. Again, the pyro shots were amazing. I like a lot of the shots where it crossfaded and it stayed on the crossfade between her and the crowd because it shows, you know, them reacting and it shows what she's doing as well at the same time.
Common concert movie technique, I might add.
Common concert movie technique. And I think it's a good thing because it's not something you really get when you're there. Again, like I said, when you're there, you're focused on the artist most of the time. And then sometimes you're looking around, but it was good to see that during the emotional songs. So yeah, I was pretty satisfied with it.
I did find that the crowd shots were great,
Mm-hmm.
but I was a little bit surprised on how close some of these crowd shots got. There were a lot of close-up crowd shots, like singling out one or two people.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you somehow appeared in one of those close-up crowd shots? Like watching the movie and like, oh wait, that's me.
It depends what I'm doing and what my face looks like at the time.
I'm sure they would have put in a good cut.
You would hope. Like sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you're just watching, your mouth is open or something. But if it was a good shot and I saw my face up there, I think I would be happy. Like I am immortalized in this movie with IU's concert. I would be happy. I don't know about other people. Is that something you would want? Not want, but would be not opposed to?
Man, I would be ecstatic if I showed up in the IU concert movie. I'd be jumping up and down. I'd be in the movie theater. I'd be like, hey, that's me. That's me.
Put that on my IMDb.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be telling all my friends that I was in the IU movie.
Yes.
There was a moment where I showed up, like me, I showed up in the IVE concert cut from their tour last year.
Yeah.
And I was like jumping up and down, like, whoa, this is crazy. This is cool. I'm in this shot.
Yeah. I mean, anytime we show up in even just the social media pictures from the concerts, we're already like so excited.
That's true. That is true. Were there any other particular moments in the movie that stood out to you?
Yeah, I just want to talk about her outfits.
Oh, yeah.
From the first outfit, that blue dress, the sparkly dress with the headphones, I thought that was beautiful. It was such an amazing dress to start off the show. And then she came out with this flowery one flowing in the wind. I thought that was perfect. And then she came out with another dress where she was wearing that crown. And my jaws dropped. My jaws dropped at that. And then she had the dress that started when she performed Shopper. Every time I thought her outfit couldn't get better, she comes out with another one. The outfits were amazing, on point. That's the other thing I wanted to talk.
Yeah. She started out with some beautiful dresses, and then she became a queen, and then she became a Greek goddess.
It was so good. I was like, are you serious? Oh my goodness, so good. What were some other things that stood out to you?
One of the things that I didn't know was that she mentioned it during the movie, but that was her 100th solo concert.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, really fitting, especially considering that it was the Seoul Encore concert and they were filming it.
Yeah.
Talk about magical. What kind of coincidence is that?
I'm telling you, the rain, the wind, just time itself just works for IU. They make sure they're lined up for IU. I don't know how else to explain it.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about is at the time when the concert happened live, it was pointed out that she produced a VCR that contains a bunch of different women that were part of the Korean music industry that IU, either they're her seniors or her juniors or her peers, that she is a fan of, that she appreciates.
Yeah.
And they didn't cut that out of the movie. They included that. And we were able to see all these different artists that IU was a fan of or that IU has some type of attachment to.
Yeah, I'm glad they kept that in. I mean, I wish I knew all the faces that I was seeing. I mean, you can get from context that we were looking at prominent female figures that she probably looks up to or she is a fan of. The one very prominent one, because it was right next to her as she was coming on stage, was New Jeans Haein. It has to be such a cool moment for Haein to be in this VCR that an icon like IU produced.
Yeah, like you said, she is the idol's idol.
Yeah.
And she was featured on that song. So I can understand why she gets that spot right next to IU on the picture frames. But yeah, after they showed the IU picture frame and she comes out of that was great. So in true IU fashion, she can't just end the movie. After the credits, she had her encore because she didn't have the encore, I guess, inside the movie. She did have one song that they ended up placing after the credits, and they included some rehearsal behind the scenes as well. Did you stay after the credits? Did anybody leave in your showing?
So luckily, I stayed because of you and our mutual friend Alan tipped me off. It's like, hey, make sure you stay after the credits. So I didn't move. Most of the people in our theater left. And then, there were 3 or 4 who saw me and this other guy just sit there. So they just kind of stood on the side and were just waiting to see probably why we're sitting. They probably got the hint that, hey, there's something coming up. And I loved that they did the classic, like, I haven't seen other K-pop concert movies, so I don't know if everyone does this, but for those who have gone to K-pop concerts, they end the show with this big finale. They leave the stage, the lights go off, but they're going to come back out and do the encore and wear their merch and things like that. And I loved that the concert ended, huge finale, drone shots galore, enough pyro to light up the whole city, right? And it stops, the credit rolls. It basically ends just like a concert would. And then it shows the post-credit scene is the encore. I love the way that's structured, just like a concert. And I can't think of the last time I saw an artist wear their concert t-shirt and it was unaltered. The most she did with it was roll up the sleeves. And that was kind of refreshing to see.
Wow, I didn't even think about that, but you are absolutely right. Yeah, it's a one-size shirt and she put it on.
Yeah, it was just a little bit oversized, rolled up the sleeves. She didn't cut it up. She didn't tie-dye it or anything. But yeah, I love that.
But that's IU. That's kind of her style. But yeah, I did love that just like the concert, she has the encore after the show.
Amazing. Do they do that at other concert movies?
They don't do that.
Okay, so that's cool.
They don't do that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that was pretty much the first time. I think even the first IU concert movie didn't do that. I'm pretty sure they had the encore within the movie itself. But in this movie, they had that encore song after the credits.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
I also enjoyed that they showed that rehearsal behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, that was cool.
If you were going to produce a performance-only concert movie, at least they had the sense to put in some rehearsal behind the scenes for people like me who love documentary-style movies.
That was cool to see, especially for such a big production like this.
Exactly. But the runtime of this particular movie, The Winning, was 124 minutes, just over 2 hours. In contrast, the Golden Hour's runtime, which was her previous concert movie, had a runtime of 171 minutes, just under 3 hours. How did you feel about the pacing, and did you enjoy the pacing of the film?
Yeah, to me, I thought the pacing of the film was great. I don't know how I would have felt about the longer version with all the songs that you said was cut out, right? So if I was there at the concert, 5 hours, let's go. I'm going to go. I'll do it. I just don't know how that feels in a movie. So this one being 124 minutes, just a little over 2 hours, I thought it was great. And part of that has to do with the set list. It just felt like it was, banger after banger. So it felt like it kind of went by. I wasn't looking at my watch or my phone or anything like that. I was in it. So to me, it was just right. How did it feel to you as someone who's experienced other lengths and even another IU concert movie?
So for me personally, I preferred the Golden Hour concert.
Okay.
Even with its long runtime. But generally speaking, I believe that movies, the perfect length is between 2 to 2.5 hours. So this was just over 2 hours. But obviously, IU's concerts are so long.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So if you're going to cut some songs, I'm glad that they cut what they cut. I don't like cutting songs out of a concert movie, but they cut out the encore or the encore.
Yeah.
I feel like they got some feedback from the previous movie. It was quite long.
Oh, 171, that's almost 3 hours, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, depending on the time of day, you might even fall asleep.
Yeah.
That's how long that movie is. And I'm pretty sure they got some feedback from the length of that movie. And they produced this concert with that in mind because it just felt like the set list and the pacing and everything was just so finely tuned to be prepared for this 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Like they knew this is how many songs we got to do, and this is going to fit within 2 hours. And then all the other songs, we can throw it into the encore, and then we won't put it in the movie itself.
Yeah.
And that also gives a little bit of, hey, I was at the concert myself in person, and I got to see all these other songs, right? That's kind of how I felt.
That is true. It makes it a little bit more special for the people that were there. That's a good point.
Yeah. So although I do prefer the Golden Hour movie just because I think I really enjoy seeing all those different songs,
Mm-hmm.
I do find that this 2-hour pacing is a lot better as far as a viewing experience goes
Mm-hmm.
because it's much more action packed. There isn't really lull moments that might make you fall asleep or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did, generally speaking, really enjoy the pacing of the film, even though that they had to cut songs for it. How did you feel after watching the movie? Was there anything about the movie that you didn't like?
So, after a concert, you have this feeling. I mean, I guess most people describe, post-concert depression. You kind of miss it. You kind of miss the members. You want to go back to that moment. I feel like I felt a version of that. I was not there in person, so I didn't have that intense of feels, but I felt like a cousin of that feeling. I wish I was there. I felt a little emotional, if you want to say that. It was a really good experience. If there was something I didn't like, the only thing that maybe stood out to me, and maybe this goes with the pacing, even though I just raved about it, there were maybe 1 or 2 points where it seemed like she came in and out too fast from the VCRs. I don't know how to describe this, and I don't even know if I'm remembering correctly, but if she's going to go back and change, there would be some time for that to happen. I felt like there may have been 1 or 2 moments where it happened a little too fast.
Maybe just a little bit unnatural feeling?
Yeah, exactly. Everything else felt so natural. Even I love that when she's getting up onto a platform, they don't cut away for too long and just try not to show like the staff members or the crew helping her into it safely. You see the crew helping her into it. And I like that. It makes me feel like I'm there because that's what you would see. There was just maybe 1 or 2 moments where it just felt, it was cut. A little bit of time was cut, and that takes you out of it for this kind of concert movie, for a performance where it's basically the concert from beginning to end. That's the only thing I can really think of that might tweak. But other than that, perfection. How did you feel coming out of this movie?
Man, I felt great. I really enjoyed the movie. If I was to liken it to a regular cinematic experience, I would compare it to one where I just watched an action-packed thriller.
Yeah.
Something like a Mission Impossible or a Fast and the Furious, something like that, where it's just action after action. It was fun. It was fast-paced. There's things happening. And most of all, just being able to see IU's performances on that massive IMAX display with the incredible sounds. I just loved it. I was so happy. As far as what I didn't like, there's not really much that I didn't like, honestly.
Hearing you talk about it kind of reminds me of the other feelings I had walking out. I just walked out so happy that I love K-pop. So this is kind of the epitome of a K-pop concert. I would show this to anybody who hasn't been to a K-pop concert. I love IU so much after this. I already loved her so much, but I can't describe it and put it into words. I just had this huge appreciation for her and, the talent she has and the show she put on and the effort the whole crew put in this show. And it's the best feeling.
Yeah, it was honestly just an incredible spectacle.
Yep.
For both the eyes and the ears.
Yes.
If I had to summarize that movie in one sentence, That's how I would summarize it. A spectacle for both the eyes and the ears.
Put that on the poster.
To follow up on a conversation that we had on our previous concert movie discussion, you asked me, why watch the movie in the cinemas? Do you have any new feelings after experiencing a concert movie in the theater for yourself?
I do. So I now see, I alluded to this earlier, when you're at a concert, depending where your seat is and things like that, you're focusing on one thing at a time, either what's going on the screens, maybe IU herself, the drones are on top. You're trying to catch the pyro with your phone or something. You're not really paying attention to the crowd around you most of the time. And I can see now that the concert movie experience gives you all of that. It shows you the concert the way they designed it to be. You see the details in her outfit. You see the pyro. I keep talking about the pyro. You see the pyro the way it was designed to go off. You're not just seeing like one part of it. You're seeing the confetti, and but at the same time, you see the fans crying. They cut to the fans crying. They cut to the drone on top. You're not missing anything. You get wide views, you get up close views. And that feeling I had walking out of the theater, like I want to experience that again. So that's the value I'd now see in concert movies. I see.
I just have to laugh because are you sure you didn't just write down what I told you from the last episode we talked about concert movies? Because I'm pretty sure you basically said word for word exactly what I said about the value of going to concert movies.
I see now, Ellis.
I mean, how else are you going to know that Tweety Bird is flying outside the stadium while you're inside the stadium?
The Tweety Bird. Oh my goodness. The thing that took their budget. Anyways, so yeah, now I see the value of watching something like this in a theater. But you were there and now you've seen the movie. How did both of those experiences compare to each other?
So again, I did go to see the concert tour in person last year when she came to the States. And I did talk about that, the Selective Hearing radio podcast, episode number 61. Go check that out if you want to hear my experience. But when I saw the show in person, it's just, as you can imagine, you're watching IU. You're not really paying attention to much else around. I was seated quite far from the stage, so I was really watching a lot of screen anyway.
Yeah.
There are a few things that I did enjoy seeing the concert in person over watching the movie. Obviously, number one is seeing her live, hearing her voice live. The other is her set list. I preferred the set list that she had for the tour around the States versus the set list that she prepared for what seemed like essentially making a set list for the movie, and there was an audience watching that show.
Yeah.
So I did prefer the in-person set list. But again, when you see the movie, you get to watch the visual and production as it was intended to be shown.
Yes.
With the close-up shots, you get to see all the details in her makeup, her outfit, her hair, and you just get to see IU, right?
Yeah.
You get to see the stadium, the crowd shots, the lighting effects with the light sticks, all the production effects with the, like you mentioned earlier, with the pyro, the streamers, the confetti, the Tweety Bird. So I think, just as I mentioned in the previous concert movie discussion, I think they're two separate things. And to get the full experience, it's really great to just do both.
Yeah. I can't wait to do a part 3 when I see her live. And we can compare with that.
Well, what we can do is once you see a concert live and a movie about that concert comes out, we can talk about that.
Yes. Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. Please.
All right. Well, that ends our discussion about IU's concert movie, The Winning. Let's move on to Prospect Patch, which again is the segment that I created to kind of do some predictions about the future. So Prospect Patch, the premier imaginary fortune teller news agency. Justin, my fellow editor-in-chief, what is the headline that we're writing about IU tomorrow?
Actually, I'm going to ask you to go first this time. Number one, I'm still kind of formulating it in my head because, the last time we did this with From Us 9, while their From Us 9 career as 8 was kind of wrapping up, they had this new chapter in sight, right? For IU, it's a little harder because she's such a veteran. She has already accomplished so much. I do have one idea formulated in my head, but I want you to go first. I want to see what you thought of.
All right. It's real simple. IU over the last decade has pretty much stuck to the same formula where one year she focuses on acting and then the next year she focuses on singing and then back to acting and then back to singing. And it's been alternating like that for the greater part of the last decade. So I would have to say in 2025, she's probably going to focus on acting. So my headline is for 2026 and it's going to be IU starts her new world tour, including stadiums in the United States. I am predicting that she will have a stadium tour in the United States in 2026.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And it's also one I'm really hoping happens.
We got to see her together.
Yes, please. Okay. My headline is a bit out there. It's a bit far-fetched just because of the way things work. But I feel like if it was anybody right now, so my headline will be IU becomes the first female K-pop soloist to win a Grammy.
Oh.
Yeah.
First of all, there's no rules to this segment. You can put together any kind of headline that you want. But that's interesting. I'm not sure the Grammys would pick something from it. Even BTS hasn't won a Grammy.
And that's why I said it was far-fetched. I also feel like if I'm being realistic, it probably wouldn't be IU. You know what I mean? IU is a queen, but I wouldn't say she's like considered, I don't know. But yeah, that's why I said it's far-fetched, yeah.
I mean, I love the headline. I really love the headline. I wish it would happen.
I know, because if it's anyone that kind of deserves it, yeah.
But realistically, the first South Korean female artist or soloist to win a Grammy, if that happens, is probably someone that we don't even know at this moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe even someone that hasn't been born yet.
That is true. That could be true too, yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. Hey, this is our news agency. This is our newspaper. We're going to write whatever we want to write.
You're right.
So, yeah, Stadium Tour 2026. You heard it here first.
Followed by a Grammy.
Exactly. So let's move on to our next segment, which is 10 years ago today, and it's jam-packed for this week.
Oh my gosh.
10 years ago today. The first thing that I wanted to talk about here on today's segment is this week, on February 10th, 2015, a girl group called Tiny G announced their indefinite hiatus. Do you remember Tiny G?
Oh man, Ellis, when I saw that we were going to discuss Tiny G today, I had the immediate urge to message you and basically spill everything I'm about to say here. But I restrained myself and I wanted to save it for the podcast and just kind of spring it on you. Because there's no way you could have known I had such an emotional attachment to Tiny G. Because who else even knows Tiny G these days, right? First of all, Tiny G is a group that I got in way too late into their careers. But when I did, for some reason, I became obsessed. I can't put my finger on exactly why without sounding generic. Oh, they're talented. They're beautiful. I love their music. You know what I mean? But I wanted to dive into all of their music that I had been missing. We talked in a previous episode that a decade ago, and before that, because a decade ago they disbanded, but even before a decade ago, how subbed content wasn't as prevalent and easy to find as it is today. And for a tiny group like this, pun absolutely intended, it was even harder, right? So I was trying to consume as much as I could. They had a song they did with Jay Park called Polaris, which made me like them even more. I also mentioned in the last episode that I watched a survival show called The Unit. One of the reasons was because Mint, their Thai member, was on that show. They were seriously on their way at the time to becoming maybe one of my favorite K-pop girl groups up to that point.
That's insane.
Really? Oh my gosh. So when they disbanded, it felt like, because I discovered them much later on, it felt like a rug was being pulled out from underneath me. I was pretty sad about it. I felt like I just discovered this diamond in the rough group and it just gets taken away. It wasn't necessarily surprising. I believe member Dohee had already left the group at that point to pursue her acting career. And as much as I tried to hold on after the disbandment, like I said before, the K-pop world moves very fast. So there just wasn't enough there for me to consider Tiny G as one of my favorite groups of all time. But they do have a special place in my heart. They're the ones who got away, Ellis. And I am so relieved that we started this podcast when we did, because otherwise, this is probably the last piece of news that we could even bring up Tiny G, and I would have never got a chance to talk about them. And I was gonna ask you if they were even on your radar.
Yeah, so you mentioned Dohee. She is actually a relatively successful actress now. She was still in the group. It was essentially her leaving that showed that they would not be continuing as a group. That was kind of what resulted in the indefinite hiatus, which was basically their disbandment, was Dohee leaving. But they had not really released much at that time. Typical Nugu K-pop groups, or Nugu means something like low popularity. Not a lot of people know them.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very volatile career. You don't know when they're going to release something. Anytime they do release something and have a comeback, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then could be any day that they just disband suddenly. So Tiny G was named because all of the members were tiny. Literally.
Yeah.
But as far as the group goes, I didn't really know much about the members themselves. I only knew the concept, and I knew Dohee because of her acting.
Yeah.
But as far as the group goes, I pretty much only knew their music.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit surprised to hear how big of a Tiny G fan you were.
Oh, what could have been, Ellis? What could have been?
So 10 years ago today, this week, on February 10th, Tiny G announced their indefinite hiatus. At least they announced something. A lot of K-pop groups don't really even announce anything.
That is true, especially in the earlier days.
Yeah. So the next headline from 10 years ago today, it's another sad one. I wanted to get the sad ones out first. 15 and, the JYP duo consisting of Baekhyun, my favorite South Korean female soloist,
Ooh.
and Park Jimin, also known as Jamie,
Yep.
who was the winner of the first K-pop star, kind of bringing back the previous episode.
Yep.
That unit, who debuted as 15 and under JYP Entertainment, came out with their final song, Love is Madness, or 사랑은 미친 짓, featuring Kanto of Troy. Were you a 15 and fan?
I wouldn't say I was. I remember them ending their tenure as a duo. I wasn't really listening to their stuff beforehand, I think. Maybe I'll recognize a few songs, but I don't remember being a big fan of them together. It's kind of crazy when I think about Jamie and when I think about Baekhyun, I don't really think about 15 and I think of them as separate entities. I got into both of these artists way more after their time as 15 and than before. So I don't even remember the song. I just remember them ending things. Since Baekhyun is your favorite soloist, were you a big fan of 15 and?
Yeah, so it's interesting that we have such varying opinions or histories when it comes to 15 and.
Yeah.
So in this song in particular, Love is Madness or 사랑은 미친 짓, I don't actually know this song. I don't remember this song. I had to go look it up and watch it to remember it. I had never listened to the song until doing the research for this episode.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan of 15 and when they debuted because in general, I really liked JYP Entertainment. And for them to release a duo like this was pretty unique, honestly.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea.
So at the time, I researched the members and I didn't really know too much about them, but I knew that I liked their music and their voices and they just had some really great songs.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until both Baekhyun and Park Jimin, who would eventually change her stage name to Jamie, came out with their solo songs that I really fell in love with their music even more. Everything that you need to know about the group is pretty much in its name, 15 and. So when the two girls debuted, they were both 15 years old and hoping to have more success in the future. So Baekhyun, I believe, came from Star King.
Oh.
So she was signed by JYP Entertainment through Star King as a R&B phenom as a child. She would go on to train for 5 years under JYP and debut with Park Jimin, who was the winner of K-pop Star. And again, like we had mentioned in the previous episode, the winner of K-pop Star could choose which agency they wanted to go to. So she chose JYP and they were young. So for JYP to really get them out there, he essentially created this group 15 and so that both of them could have industry experience. I don't think their personalities really matched up that well.
Yeah.
So the group didn't have huge success. I think when it comes to K-pop groups, the chemistry between the members is super important.
100%. Yep.
That's why we have groups like Davichi, this famous duo of women, Lee Hae-ri and Kang Min-kyung. They have been around forever just because they have such a great relationship and they keep putting out great music, OST tracks, mainly ballads, things of that nature. But yeah, 15 and it was more of a way to just get these artists out there. And then once in 2015, where they pretty much came out with their last song and they were free to move on to create their own music, that's when you really started to see them bloom and shine as artists.
Mm-hmm.
And they both went on their own way. Baekhyun is more of a indie, R&B, and even rock with her band.
Yeah.
Whereas Jamie is more of the hip-hop R&B style. And they do still have a cordial relationship. But yeah, I was a big fan of 15 and like I said, eventually Baekhyun has become one of my top artists. She is my favorite South Korean female soloist. Her, and then followed by IU.
Yeah. I was lucky. I've seen Baekhyun live at Head in the Clouds. And so she was awesome.
Yeah, you just hear their voices and they're both so...
Oh, amazing.
They were both such talented vocalists.
Yeah, so good.
So yeah, February 11th of 2015, 15 and released their final song, Love is Madness, or 사랑은 미친 짓. So now with those sad headlines out of the way, I do want to talk about some happier headlines, things like debuts and releases. The first thing on the list is something that Justin wanted to talk about, which is Park Ji-soo, who goes by the stage name of KISS, spelled KIXS, who was a member of the boy group Dalmatian, which was spelled DMTN. He had his solo debut with the single Beautiful that featured Sani, and the music video featured Guhara of Kara, and that came out on February 10th, 2015. Tell me, why did you want to talk about this?
I am so excited. Okay. You know how earlier we were talking how like the rain and the wind and everything, it felt like it was working for IU. Everything just fell in place. This episode is insane to me because I said at one point Tiny G they were on their way to becoming one of my top girl groups. Well, Dalmatian was kind of the same thing for me with boy groups. I think it's such a coincidence that we get to talk about both of these groups in the same episode because Dalmatian, for a period of time, were winning over my heart and on their way to the top of my list. I love their music. The members all had such interesting experiences in the industry prior to coming together. I think they were like a little older than usual idols would be. You know, some of them trained the idols that we knew and loved at that point. Park Ji-soo, aka KISS, came out with this solo song, which I was already excited about because, again, I love Dalmatian. But then we found out Kara's Hara was going to be in the music video. That took me over the moon because I loved Kara. And this song, it lived up. It probably surpassed my expectations. It's a perfect Valentine's Day song. Hence the time that they decided to release it. Hara is stunning in it. And it's a song that I actually still listen to from time to time, even 10 years later. I can't believe it was 10 years ago. Did you have any connection to Dalmatian or this song at all?
I had never heard of the group Dalmatian, and I don't know this song.
Really?
I don't know if you could tell from the way that I was introducing this headline. Yeah, DMTN, Dalmatian, I had no idea.
Yeah, it wasn't DMTN at first. It later became DMTN, and you know, that kind of like switch up, and they had a bit of, you know, member reorganization and things like that. That's what prevented them from them becoming one of my top groups. They just ran into too many obstacles, and unlike From Is 9, they didn't get through all of them as smoothly. So
like we mentioned in the previous episode, second gen K-pop, there's just a lot of reformations.
Exactly. But there was a period of time they were very special to me, just like Tiny G.
But yeah, I didn't know the song, so I did go watch the music video after you told me about this headline.
Yeah.
And yeah, second gen K-pop, again, at its finest.
And it's funny because part of the reason I got into K-pop was it was cool to see Asians that weren't Asian Americans. They just had a different style that I didn't see on our media. And I always wanted to copy their style because it's so different. And his, bleach blonde hair, the eyebrows, everything. I thought it was so cool at the time. I wanted to like imitate that.
So at the time, I was actually a really big Sunny fan.
Yes.
And a big Guhara fan.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that I didn't know this song, but I did watch the music video, like I mentioned. And it was pretty interesting. They did the one cut style of filming.
Yes, one shot. Yep.
Yeah, one shot. So yeah, it was good. Do you have anything to say about the music video? I mean, Guhara was in it.
I love the music video. I've watched it so many times, and I'm glad you brought up Sunny. He wasn't someone I was familiar with until he became part of the JYP family.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, okay, cool. And do you remember his first music video? It was basically like a parody of each of their artists.
It was hilarious.
It was so good. And so Sunny is in this, KIXS is in this, Guhara is in this. Everything about it was just, I was so excited for it, and it lived up to the hype for me. So loved it. That's why I was so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so 10 years ago today, on February 10th, 2015, Park Jisoo, or KISS, of the group Dalmatian, debuted solo with his single Beautiful featuring Sunny, and the music video featured Guhara. The next headline from 10 years ago today was on February 13th of 2015, Amber of the SM girl group FX debuted with her solo EP, Beautiful, with the lead single Shake That Brass that featured Sonyeoside, or Girls' Generation's Taeyeon. So Justin, tell me about the song.
I cannot believe that Beautiful by KISS came out 10 years ago, just days from Amber's solo debut. I feel like the KISS one was 15 years ago, and I feel like this Amber one was 5 years ago. So it's crazy, the timeline in my head compared to real life. But yeah, so Amber's solo debut, Shake That Brass, featuring Girls' Generation's Taeyeon. This is a song that I like. I just don't like, it's ruined by the concept of it.
In what way?
Oh, this is a great example. Last episode, you mentioned Wiggle Wiggle by Hello Venus. After the show, after our podcast, I listened to it. I don't hate that song. I don't like the concept that was attached to it. Does that make sense? I think if it wasn't Wiggle Wiggle, and I believe you said the lyrics were a huge part of what made that song so bad. I feel like if they took the lyrics a little bit more seriously and the title was not Wiggle Wiggle, I think this, if you take the song, it's a good song. I enjoy the song. When you combine it with...
You're taking a lot of things away there.
You take the melody, the instrumental...
You just change it up this way and that way. And it's an amazing song.
Reskin it. Yeah. This song is the same thing. I like the song. It just, the Shake That Brass is a little cringy, I guess, if that's how to describe it. But I feel like a lot of people around this time know this song. Do you know this song?
Yeah, I'm not an Amber fan.
Okay.
So I don't know this song. I never listened to it.
Okay.
But I did check it out.
Okay.
Because it is on our segment today.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I noticed is, man, there's a lot of celebrities in this music video.
Yes, Amber is friends with a lot of people.
So it's really cool to see Miss A's Min and Ja. Also, Rainbow's Uri was in it.
Yes.
There's June from G.O.D. We talked about G.O.D. on the show already. Hyoyeon was also in the music video. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of Amber, so I didn't know the song.
How did you feel about the song when you listened to it?
It's okay.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did enjoy, though, was the music video. I didn't really care for the song itself.
Okay.
But the music video, it surprised me because this was 10 years ago. And watching that music video back, I don't know if it was SM or what, but the way that it was shot, it still holds up really well to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the color grading or the cameras that they had, the budget, the shot selection. It seemed relatively low budget as far as the production goes, but perhaps the cameras that they had were really nice. I don't know. The color grading that I mentioned earlier. But when you watch this music video could have come out 2005, 2015, 2025, and it's not dated at all. You won't know. And I don't know if that's because of SM. Maybe they just had a way of producing videos that maintain a classic kind of look. Because if you go back to that video that we just discussed earlier with KISS.
I was about to ask, do you compare it? Yeah.
Man, that is so second gen.
It feels so like worlds apart, right?
You just look at that music video and the grading, the quality, it just feels like, hey, this is an old music video.
Yes.
But you watch Shake That Brass and it's like, was this shot in 2015 or was this shot a year or two ago?
That's what I'm saying. Beautiful by KIXS feels like it was 15 years ago. This feels like it was like 5 years ago. Like I don't understand how these came out 3 days apart.
But yeah, it was a good music video. I did like the music video for the most part. There was a few scenes that I didn't care for, but
The ones with Amber?
no, it's not just because Amber was in it.
Okay.
It was the one scene that I'm referring to is the one where she was dunking.
Mm.
I thought that was kind of dumb. But hey,
Oh, I
I don't
see.
know.
I would say the part of the songs with Taeyeon's vocals, I loved. I think her parts were great.
I mean, yeah, it's Taeyeon.
Yeah,
One of the best female soloists in Korea. So
Exactly.
10 years ago today, on February 13th, FX's Amber debuted with her solo EP, Beautiful, and the lead single, Shake That Brass, featuring Girls' Generation's Taeyeon. The next thing I want to talk about is Jinah of Antenna Music. At the time, she was on K-Pop Star 4, and she released one of her greatest hits, Yum Yum Yum, on February 15th of 2015. Do you know Jinah? Have you listened to her at all?
It's my turn to say I have not. So please tell me about this song and tell me about Jinah.
Yeah, so this is just really representative of the time. Every time we go back to 10 years ago, somehow there's something to do with K-Pop Star. That's just how prevalent that show was at the time and how many artists they produced,
Mhm.
right? So K-Pop Star 4, who Jinah was a part of, the winner of K-Pop Star 4 was Katie, who would go on and choose YG as her label of choice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you may remember in episode 1, I mentioned meeting Katie for the first time last year.
Yes.
But one of the other contestants from that show was Jinah. And Jinah is another female artist who's more known as a musician. She's not exactly K-pop. I was able to see Jinah for the first time in 2023. She came to New York for a show and she held a 2-night performance at this cafe that's known for hosting small shows, and I was able to see her.
Oh, that's cool.
But I knew her because of this song, Yum Yum Yum. So Yum 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 is one of her most famous songs, and she first performed it at K-Pop Star 4, and it was released, again, 10 years ago today on February 15th. So I highly recommend, if you have not heard this song, to check it out because she has a very unique voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of higher pitched. It sounds kind of cute, but the content of her songs is really interesting. So Yum Yum Yum, it sounds very cute, right? Yum Yum Yum. In Korean, it's like Yum Yum Yum. But the way that she creates these analogies between relationships and eating is so interesting. And I think it's one of the reasons that this song blew up in Korea. It's a really famous song, so I highly recommend you to check that out and maybe let me know what you think.
I will. Just like Hello Venus's Wiggle Wiggle. Although this one you highly recommend, so.
I told you not to listen to Wiggle Wiggle.
Yeah.
But for this, Yum 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 from Jinah, highly recommend that song. It's one of her best songs. I still listen to it all the time. And she has come out with more songs after that, but it's still probably my favorite song of hers. And again, she's signed with Antenna Music, or rather, Antenna Music signed her after K-Pop Star 4. And yeah, 10 years ago today, Jinah released Yum 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 from the show K-Pop Star 4 on February 15th, 2015. The last thing I want to talk about today is the solo debut of Teen Top's Niel with his EP, Oh Neely. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Oh Neil Y.
It has to be, yeah.
With the title track Love Killer featuring Doki. That happened on February 16th of 2015. Tell me, what do you know about Teen Top or Niel or the song?
First of all, do you think it's like only, you know?
I have no idea. That's why I said,
Only, like, it's his solo debut. It's only him.
oh, that could be it. Only?
Yeah.
Only?
Like, only. Yeah.
Oniri? I think it might be Oniri. Yeah.
Okay. I obviously knew Teen Top. Teen Top were, personally, I wouldn't describe them as one of the top boy groups at the time, but they were pretty big. They were very well known, I believe.
A Brave Brothers production.
Hold on, let me try this. Break sound. Okay.
You'll like that edit after.
Okay. And yeah, and I did enjoy their songs. A big part of that is because, I was such a big fan of Brave Brothers Productions at that time. But I just never got into the group to the point where I knew every single member. I don't know why. Maybe there's just so many other groups. Again, Dalmatian. I just tried to get into Dalmatian at the time. Doki, I just know because he did some stuff with Jay Park. That's how I know him as a rapper. I don't really remember this song, to be honest, outside of listening to it for this podcast. Probably I just didn't take it with me 10 years later. But the cool thing is Teen Top are still kind of active today. They just had kind of a reunion come back together. So I'm happy that they're still kind of active doing their thing. It's just this song in particular, this solo debut in particular, I did not carry with me 10 years later. What about you? What was your feelings on Teen Top and this?
So actually, I don't know much about the Teen Top members. Pretty much Niel is the only member that I know because...
Yeah, I feel like Niel was just a name that was just always attached.
Yeah, he's pretty well known, especially in the idol community. He even hosted a show with AOA's Chanmi called Idol League. Do you know Idol League?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was just like a small show. I don't even know if it was on TV or if it was on YouTube or something. It might have been just like some premium subscription channels. But essentially, it was just a show that brought idols on and they did games and interviews and stuff like that.
Okay.
But anyway, I didn't really know much about Teen Top's members, but Teen Top's music was very well known.
Yeah.
And it's really great second generation K-pop music. So if you have not listened to Teen Top, I highly recommend a lot of their songs.
Yeah.
A lot of their songs are really good. And the cool thing about Teen Top is that it showed that a boy group from a smaller agency could still have a lot of success even amongst the other large agencies. The agency that they come from is called Top Media. It might have been related to their name. I don't remember the exact history of the agency, but it was created by Shinhwa's Andy. And right now, they have a few artists still currently signed with them. The boy group MCND and a new girl group that just debuted, Odd Youth. So in today's K-pop, I feel like boy groups and girl groups to a certain extent have a very difficult time being successful if you're not from a large agency. I think the large agencies are just putting out so much content and so many boy groups that it's very difficult for a boy group from a small agency to really be successful.
Yeah.
Even like Cube has a new boy group and I don't really think that they're doing too well, right? And Cube is a mid-sized agency.
And I think if we said their names to someone, they wouldn't even know it was a Cube group.
They might not even know the name of the group.
The group itself. Yeah.
Yeah, they may not have even heard of it. Even like Ulim,
Yeah.
who had the likes of Infinite and Lovelies.
Yeah.
They have a new boy group called Drippin'.
Yep.
Well, I guess they're not that new anymore, but a lot of people don't know who Drippin' is either.
Just the fact that you describe them as new says a lot already.
Well, yeah, there's been a few years now.
No, I mean, like, even me, like, I see them as new as well. But that's just because
Oh.
it feels like they haven't gained traction, which is why we think, oh, there's this rookie group.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just really difficult for a boy group to be successful in today's K-pop, fifth generation K-pop, unless you're from a large agency. But Teen Top, again, some great music. Highly recommend you check out their songs if you are a fan of K-pop. It's just really representative of the second generation boy group sound.
Yeah.
They have a lot of great songs. I didn't know about this song. I knew he had debuted solo, but I never actually really listened to his solo music. So this is the first time I listened to this song and I watched the music video. And this is a really good song and a really good music video. Did you watch the video?
I did. I watched it for in prep for this podcast. I don't know why. It's kind of like the if you remember, we talked about G-Soul in a previous episode, how I watched that and I loved it. Teen Top, Niel's solo debut. I liked it. I just don't I don't think it was something that caught my attention at the time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add this to my playlist because I do really like this song.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago today, on February 16th, 2015, Teen Top's Niel had his solo debut, Love Killer, featuring Doki, off of his EP, Onuri.
Onuri.
Man, a lot of really great solo debuts in 2015 so far.
For real, I think I'm going to start a playlist of songs we talk about and just see how many songs just from this podcast that I've discovered that I like and want to listen to now. G Soul's You is going to be on top of that list for a while.
I'm looking forward to seeing that playlist.
Yeah.
All right, so that has been our segment 10 years ago today. Once again, Tiny G announced their indefinite hiatus, or essentially disbandment. 15 and also had their final song. Park Jisoo, or KISS of Dalmatian, had his solo debut. Amber had her solo debut. Jinah also released Yum 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 from K-Pop Star 4. And Teen Top's Niel had his solo debut. Jam-packed.
Jam-packed. What a week.
So today, we reviewed and analyzed the movie IU Concert, The Winning in Cinemas. How would you rate the movie?
Are you talking like number-wise?
Yeah, give it a number rating, like out of 10 or whatever scale that you want to do.
You know what? I don't actually do number ratings just because I feel like for example, if I say 6, you're not internalizing what my 6 is. You're projecting what your 6 means, right? So I try not to do that, especially if you don't have a frame of reference. I'll just say what I feel about it. I can't imagine a concert movie in theaters now that will surpass this experience. And a big part of that is because this was IU. And we've already talked about the greatness of IU. You know, her concerts are already spectacle, so it lends itself very well to the big screen. You know, she had her fingerprints all over the show. The way this production team packaged it as a movie showcased it brilliantly. There are probably only a few artists that I would literally travel to Korea to go see. And IU is already one of them, but now because of this movie, I feel like it's something I have to do. Something I have to experience. I know it's very, very unlikely, which sucks because it's already hard for people who live in Korea. So we are already at a huge disadvantage. But yeah, let me know when you see another concert movie that is on par with this, because I will go watch it immediately. This was such a good watch. I love it. How would you rate it? Because I do enjoy your movie ratings.
Yeah, I just give a solid number out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 9. I'll give it a solid 9. Maybe, I think I'm going to give it a 9.5. Somewhere between 9 and a 9.5. It was definitely a great movie. I would not put it up to the standard of her previous concert movie.
Which was your top one, right?
Which is my favorite one indeed. But
okay, so yeah.
I would say that this is probably my second favorite concert movie that I've watched so far.
Okay, that makes me feel better about I was like, is it just because it's the only one I've actually kind of seen in theaters that I feel like this? But man, it was so good.
No, it was just so many great visuals as far as the production goes that it really made for an incredible viewing experience in the theater.
It was an emotional experience, and that's hard to do.
Yeah, it's just like watching any other movie, right?
The good ones.
But yeah, definitely seeing IU in concert in Korea is a bucket list item.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we'll be able to achieve that, check that box. But yeah, it's pretty difficult, as you said.
Hey, if your headline comes true, I will take that for now.
Would you recommend this movie to a casual fan? Maybe a K-pop fan? For sure, IU fans have probably gone and seen it already, but for a regular fan.
I would 100% recommend this to a casual fan just to showcase to them not just what a concert movie can be. I would show this to some of my friends who aren't as familiar with K-pop because I want to show them what a Korean artist of this caliber can achieve and how unique and emotional of an experience it is to be at a K-pop concert. I think this is kind of a beautiful representation of that.
Well, thanks again for joining me, Justin. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts. Again, I need to see IU live. I need to see IU in Korea. And you know what? I know you were trying to convince me and show me how beautiful concert movies were. And I see that now. Again, I see that, Ellis. But I will say this movie might have been a double-edged sword. It showed me how good concert movies can be in theaters and what I've been missing, but it also makes me kind of hesitant to watch another one going forward just because I feel like this sets such a high bar. How could something live up to this? I guess we'll see.
How can another movie live up to this one? Maybe Another IU concert movie.
I'm already there.
That's all for today, Friday, February 14th, 2025. This has been Diaries of an MZ Generation, hosted by Ellis Tan and Justin Lee. This is a production of Selective Hearing and is a part of the Selective Hearing network of podcasts, edited by Ellis Tan and Greg Abisamis. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.